Hello and welcome to another Company of Heroes 3 game. My name is Fancy Josh, and today I've got a game for you between Kitsune as our Wehrmacht. His opponent today is going to be Jesulin as our US. Map today is going to be Twin Beaches. And it looks like our US player has already locked in the airborne battle group, calling in a heavy machine gun. Gonna capture this fuel straight away. So Twin Beaches, you got this critical central fuel point here that we're going to see a lot of early game fighting over. Of course, you have a ton of fuel down here, but it's rather far away from your base, and these cutoff points serve as nearly the only way to connect those points to the base. And as the game goes on, we'll see players kind of hang out in the middle and sort of rotate to where they need to be and fight over those cutoff points. At least that's how it typically goes. German player opening 3 Pioneers, so a lot of extra capture power right out of the gate. Going to help him get out to an early map lead advantage, but at the expense of mid-game firepower. US player, on the other hand, has opened with 2 scouts and an engineer, as well as this heavy machine gun. So typically, build like this, I would expect to see against Africa Corps. And the reason I say that is, oh man, nice little flank by these Pioneers, actually both outside the arc here, going to drive back this heavy machine gun, and the Grenadiers now coming in for support. Looks like another heavy machine gun is on the way for our US players, so going to group up his heavy machine guns, engineers, and scouts in the area though. So going to be an intense fight here. Pioneers getting in behind the heavy machine gun. Grenadiers barely making it to heavy cover there, going to be able to fight at long range here, but with a second heavy machine gun on the scene, it does look like our US player is going to win this fight. So the disadvantage of a build like this from our US player, of course, is that he has way less capturing power, right? He has less mobility, less capturing power on the map. And I think our German can take advantage of that by swinging around, picking up some territory on this bottom side. Unfortunately for him, not finishing that capture on that fuel, trying to close the distance with these scouts. Nice little kiting by these scouts, right? They lose at close range, but if he can keep backing up, keep taking pot shots, should enable him to win this fight long term. But, of course, that's a lot of APM for our US player, so at the expense of his other units on the map, like this scout losing that fight. Heavy machine gun going to take away this munitions point here. And an aggressive opening from our US player, to be sure. Going up to Weapons Support Center and Infantry Support Center right now. So we are going to see... I suspect we're going to see half-tracks. But it is possible we see... Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, it does feel like we're going to see half-tracks out of that Weapons Support Center. Does feel a bit early for half-tracks. But, yeah, he's going to go for that straight away. So I think that means we're going to see an AA half-track. Going to want to deal with all this infantry he's up against. Luftwaffe company on the way for our German. Expect we're going to see some Jaegers out of him straight away, because he should know that his opponent has been ahead on fuel income for this early game, and he does need to be ready to deal with some vehicles from his opponent. Both players being very active all over the map here. Heavy machine gun going to steal away this cutoff point. It's pretty annoying for our German to deal with. And half-track has arrived. So I can't remember who I saw. I want to say it was Varig, which I pronounce Varig. I don't know if it's Fairy G, but I'm just going to keep going with Varig until somebody can tell me definitively how to pronounce his name. In any case, I think we saw him do this against Ray. An interesting sandbag placement there. I'll let these Grenadiers take this fight a little bit more easily. Does look like our US player is going to win this fight. Scout car on the way for our German here. Sees the half-track and adds on a scout car instead of a Jaeger. Half-track is upgrading to the AA variant. And scouts getting picked up by those Grenadiers. Nice get for our German. And it's actually amazing to me that our German is doing this with only 2 Grenadier squads. I mean, Pioneers are fine for capturing, and, you know, they're okay in combat, but not against heavy machine guns, so. Paratroopers added on for our US player. I do expect we're going to see these guys go for the LMG upgrade. Of course, he's quite a bit away from that in terms of munitions, but I think that LMGs would be pretty good for these troopers. Now, the scout car on the field, gonna totally wreck these paratroopers at point-blank range. AA half-track on the scene, though. Grenadiers trying to get a Panzerfaust here. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to connect. German continuing to be aggressive here. I'm surprised these paratroopers haven't left the area. Panzerfaust coming out. Scout car closing the distance. Is not upgraded, but on the side armor there, trying to deal some damage. Heavy machine guns saving the day a little bit. Pioneers also on the scene, but I do think both players are going to limp away with their vehicles here a little bit. And a rather red map to start us off here. Victory points also reflecting that reality. 3rd Grenadier on the way next. Again, another interesting choice from our German. I would have expected to see a Jaeger, but feeling comfortable with his anti-tank capabilities currently, which is to say only Panzerfausts. So yeah, what I was trying to say earlier is that I had a game recently between Ray and Fairy G, or Farrig, on my channel. That was I think I titled it Game 2, where they had a 2-game matchup, and we saw our US player go for that in that game as well. Went double heavy machine gun into 2 paratroopers with bazooka support. And that was against Africa Corps, though. So, you know, doesn't need as many bazookas to start off that game. Seemingly content to go for some paratroopers stayed away. Now, paratroopers have been upgraded with the bazookas. That's interesting. Those bazookas are going to be a bit scary for that scout car to deal with. I still, you know, the more I think about this scout car, the more I like it. I mean, I know he's having to deal with this AA half-track. That scout car can get in behind those heavy machine guns pretty easily. And, you know, with that type of mobility, that could be pretty cool to see happen. Actually, he has an opportunity here. Of course, he doesn't know this heavy machine gun is there. Now he does. Grenadiers getting out of the arc and on the side. And German player using the scout car to capture territory with the use of his mechanized battle group. Both players focusing this top side. 2nd paratrooper's been added on, as well as an AA gun for our German. So that AA gun might be serving double duty this game, knowing his opponent might go for some plane-based Collins that he can potentially shoot down with an AA gun. Grenade coming out there, and this definitely looks like a favorable fight for our German player. Here an AA gun firing, where's that happening at? Right here in the middle, absolutely shredding that heavy machine gun. Does look like that heavy machine gun's going to go down. That's a great pickup for our German player there. That heavy machine gun's going to serve him well, denying it to his opponent, of course. German player turning off his reinforce ability for a moment there. Looking like he wants to save up manpower to pick something up here. Suspect that's... Maybe he... Oh, he might be going for the... He might be going for the Stug assault gun early. Looks like he wants to get the Stug assault gun to start us off here. And wow. This game is getting crazy fast. Man, I can't believe how fast that AA gun paid off for him, man. Got a real quick pickup on the heavy machine gun there. Gonna put him a little bit ahead of his opponent here. Scout car continuing to level up here, using it to capture all sorts of territory. Bazooka's headed this way, as well as the only half-repaired half-track there. Bazooka's looking like they want a piece of the scout car, but scout car going to bail out early. Bazooka's going to stop the Pioneers from capturing. AA half-track on the flank here. Getting a nice angle on that AA gun. Not going to chase, though. And wow, heavy machine gun being used to hold down. This is not something I see very often, players posting up heavy machine guns in that house. You know, me being a bad player and playing it like, you know, cardboard elo, I definitely see players do this, and that's why I love mortars, for exactly this type of situation. But this AA gun's going to actually do some serious work here. Is he going to attack ground there? Kind of looks like he wants to. Wonder if he knows it's there. More sandbags for a German player. Love to see that. Stolen heavy machine gun on the front here, and a Stug assault group added on as expected there. That's why he disabled his reinforce at his headquarters, so he could get that out early. And a quick tank depot from our US player. Very cool. But I think we're gonna see... I mean... Okay, what do we think? I mean, the only two options from my perspective are bulldozer or regular Sherman. And I think if having seen this Stug, I probably would prefer a regular Sherman. But I know high-level players tend to favor... They tend to favor the bulldozer. So Bazooka's getting on the side of this Stug here. German player not quite responding, trying to pick up the heavy machine gun. Bazooka's bouncing off that high front armor from the Stug there. Getting a great connection with those paratroopers there. Paratroopers moving in the house. Stug gonna respect them a little bit. And Stoss trooping on this top side, gonna have to contend with that AA half-track. Stoss trooping, of course, not gonna win that fight. And, you know, from being a relatively red map a few minutes ago, it's turned nice and blue for our German here. AA gun continuing to fight this captain. Bazooka's still connecting with the Stug there, but Stug's got plenty of health to deal with that. Now they're going for very much anti-tank just yet. I mean, I guess he does have 2 bazookas, but 2 bazookas not going to do a whole lot against Stugs. Stug getting aggressive here, finding the AA half-track, going to focus the engineers instead. Going to take this cutoff point, deny his opponent all those resources. Engineers going to stop this capture from happening. Now there they go, going to stand in the circle. Heavy machine gun going to keep that unit suppressed. Stug's getting super aggressive here. Still not able to connect. I hear the AA gun in the wings helping out. Really good hit by the Stug on those infantry. Here come the bazookas though. And just barely tinking away. So what a great answer to this build this Stug is. I mean, and a bulldozer about to arrive from our US player. So we saw, you know, I keep thinking about that I mean, I literally just saw this build the other day, and I'm over here thinking that game between Ray and Farrig, I saw Ray, I mean, he was playing Africa Corps, but he went for the... Oh god, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. It's that Italian tank that behaves like a Stug, kind of. It's got an artillery barrage. In any case, that was his answer to this build, and I'm thinking that both in this game and in that game, some sort of indirect, high explosive, high health unit with high armor is a pretty decent answer to this airborne build from the US player, because this build looks like it struggles with anti-tank. So, kind of cool to see. Now, Bulldozer's an interesting choice, right? I mean, this is going to help against the plethora of infantry that his opponent has, but it's not going to help out too much against that Stug. But I think with combined arms, our US player is going to be plenty happy. Now a anti-tank gun added on for our US player. I think that's a really good decision. And more... Oh, yeah, drop in, I see. Of course, he called it in. So where does our German go from here? It looks like he's upgrading to the Panzer Company. Doesn't look like he wants... you know what? We're going to see Panthers from him. From the... but built out of this Panzer Company. You can see he's already unlocked the Panthers there. Barrage coming out here from the Sherman there. Stug not giving a crap. AT gun is going to drive him back, though. AA gun dealing with this very close-range Sherman here. Now, this Sherman's in a bad spot. We could see a Panzerfaust here to snare that unit, but snaring it isn't actually going to do a whole lot, and that's a dead scout car there. Nice find by our US player. Smoke pop going to help out. Attack ground, barely missing. Scout car still somehow alive. So nicely done by our German player, keeping that unit alive. I love how active our US player is being with this bulldozer. I mean, he rightly identified that his opponent basically doesn't have any anti-tank, and he's taking advantage of that with this high armor, high health unit. Grenadier's going to have to also give up the position. And we should see a Panther pretty soon here. Can't quite remember the cost, but there's so much action that I'm not going to be able to check. AA gun probably going to go down to this Sherman here. Grenadiers coming out of the base. Going to try and push back these airborne. A German player, you know, he's controlled enough victory points in the last couple minutes to stay in this game, no problem. But he is reaching scary levels, right? He needs to stay on top of his victory points, or he's going to get pretty far behind. Another call in by our US player, adding on another heavy machine gun, so he's up to 3 now. The airborne actually going to win that fight and take the point. And suddenly it's a red map again. I mean, this is, you know, the reality of trying to go up to a Panther at this stage in the game, right? I mean, you have to save a ton of manpower, a ton of fuel, and as a result, you're not necessarily continuing to add squads. And, you know, having all his units run over by that Sherman that he doesn't have an answer for makes a lot of sense. So our scout car has been upgraded with the map hack package. Map hack package. Yeah, I said that right. Got that signal detection. Going to be able to see into the fog of war. Able to quickly respond to what his opponent's doing. US player adding on advanced logistics here. So he's going to get discounts on his infantry reinforcements. Does also have the rocket strike. Now the rocket strike is pretty stinking good against all manner of tanks. So German player, despite having a tech advantage here as this Panther's going to hit the field, he's still going to have to be very, very careful. German getting vision of these Grenadiers. Going to try and drive them off the point there. Scout car in a bit of a risky spot is going to back up. Stug holding down this fuel point. Stoss trooping on the wings, dominating anybody they run into. And US player continuing to stay aggressive with his vehicles, but with this Panther, the Sherman needs to immediately respond. Is actually going to get absolutely shredded by this Panther. Here comes the dual rocket strike, though. And US player missing with that rocket strike, unfortunately for him, and that is going to be a dead Sherman for sure. And this half-track might even be in trouble. It's crawling away here, but not feeling very good. Looks like the Stug was dueling that AT gun and didn't work out for him too well, but did keep the Stug alive. And another great pickup by our German. So what a comeback we're seeing right now. And, you know, that exactly what we just saw right there is why I'm not a huge fan of the... Not a big fan of the bulldozer. I know it's a good answer to a lot of infantry, but our German was pretty distinctly lacking anti-tank. And I know he's got these bazookas, but look at all that massive damage they're doing to this Panther, which is to say 0. Stug fighting some more bazooka squads over here. Gonna totally wreck that infantry. That heavy front armor. Here comes the AT gun. Should have an angle here. Bouncing its first shell. And Stugs are just formidable. Holy cow. That insane armor is just totally ridiculous. So I actually like this decision to use this Panther against infantry. I think Panthers in this in Company of Heroes 3 are pretty reasonable against infantry. They were completely useless in previous installments, but not this one. AA gun, a little bit danger close to all this infantry. And we are seeing a regular Sherman added on by our US player here. So, you know, I don't like to throw shade, but I do think that this Sherman might actually be a mistake. Another mistake from our US player. Because at this stage, he needs some pretty serious anti-tank. I don't think he wants to be brawling. And with all that in mind, I do think that a Hellcat might be a pretty good answer here. Of course, the Hellcat is rather fragile. It's going to need an infantry screen, which it actually has right here. Scout car barely scraping away. Once again, Hellcat coming in. Stoßtruppen bouncing harmlessly off the armor there. Stug rear armor exposed to all these bazookas. Going to take him out. That's really nice. Sherman here. I think I called it a Hellcat. That was wishful thinking, guys. But Sherman trying to find this Panther. Not going to happen. AT gun being protected by a heavy machine gun. And wow. You know, despite losing a bunch of his early game vehicles, US player is still in a reasonable spot this game. Panther's going to have to be repaired back up, as is the scout car. And the US player is going to walk away with more fuel once again. And wow, you know, despite, I don't know, feels like our US player has been pretty freaking dominant this game. And, you know, I know he just got punched pretty hard in the gut, losing those tanks. Or losing the tank, I should say. But all things considered, this game is coming out rather even. And, yeah, very cool. So, what's next for our German player? I think a second Stug would be a mistake, or second Panther. So I think we're probably going to see a Sturmpanzer. We might see a Panzer IV. You know, just again a kind of an all-rounder, jack-of-all-trades type unit. But a Sturmpanzer would be pretty good against what he's up against. US player committing to more Shermans here, which is the way to go. If you're going to go one Sherman, you probably want to go more. Sort of brawl with them, and of course multiple Shermans can handle a Panther if they work together. Especially in concert with these bazookas. AT gun actually connecting with this Panther. Panther giving the side armor here. This is a really bad position for the Panther. Panther is going to bail out, should make it out no problem. Stoßtruppen on the scene, going to totally shred those paratroopers. Sherman also involved here. Not quite connecting with its first shot there. Now these units enjoying the benefits of high ground here, as this is in fact a tiny little hill. Stoßtruppen coming up on this AT gun there, trying to push him back, is going to do it okay. AT, lots of heavy machine guns in the middle. Pioneers and engineers duking it out on the bottom side here. And it's just action everywhere. Grenadier nearly dead, trying to finish this capture, but it's got to leave right now. Doesn't even know it. And I think that's a dead Grenadier. Yes, it is. A little bit unfortunate for our German player losing track of that unit, because there's a lot going on, of course. And German player going for a second Panther here. Okay, very interesting. Unfortunately for him, losing his AA gun, though. So that's going to be a nice little pickup for the US player once again. Wow. This game has been a bloodbath. Both players taking some pretty substantial losses. And everything coming out even, at least for right now. German player getting repaired back up. You know, let's take a quick trip through his command tree just to make sure we're all on the same page. So he's got that mechanized assault, which is rather expensive, but repairs all your vehicles. Makes your infantry more effective, as in faster, harder to hit, take less damage. Nothing else really special. Spotting scouts, nothing to write home about. Does has access to the vest. We haven't seen that. And wait, did it just switch me? Oh, weird. So tournament, that was interesting. Oh, I see what I did. Ignore me, guys. Me getting confused by the camera once again. Second Panther hitting the field here. Looks like another AT gun being dropped in by our US player. I think that's a great decision to support his Shermans here. Jaeger's added on for our German player. I think that's a fine addition. Going to help him deal with the Shermans from his opponent. And this is a big stinking push. Now, of course, our German has a partial vision here with that signal detection. He's getting super aggressive. Going to chase down these Shermans. Sherman's taking huge damage. AT guns are in position, but not penetrating the armor. And those sure look like some dead Shermans to me, although the Panther's continuing to fight. Everybody getting rear armor here. AT gun's not facing the right way. One of the AT guns went down. First Sherman going down. And that looks like another dead Sherman to me, and that is pretty stinking devastating for our US player. Love to see him destroy these AT guns on his way out. Looks like he might actually want to capture them. US player trying to put a stop to that, but looks like the German is going to succeed in taking at least one of the AT guns. Panther even helping out against these bazookas. Heavy machine gun on the wings here. AT gun going to be stolen, and that is going to be a surrender from our US player. So, yeah, you know, despite an early game dominant position, I felt like our German knew exactly what he was up against, right? I mean, he added on that Stug, which did some great work against the early game bazookas, and then transitioned into Panthers just in time to deal with all the armor from his opponent. And I think the US player made a little bit of a stumble by going for an early bulldozer instead of something more anti-tank focused. But what a lovely comeback by our German. I hope you guys enjoyed this game as much as I did, and I will see you in the next one.